Why don't we start with Kai?
Oh, glad to be here. I am Lethewaterkai. I run a panel here on Twitch. Your favorite, your uh, friendly neighborhood. Oh, wow, this is interesting. Uh, Asexual, and I've pretty much been in knowledge of that for about 5 years now. But I've kind of known it my whole life, and it's something I've been trying to work through and understand better. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. And Razor.
Okay, I have officially done live. I got the last 20. I got the last like 10 seconds. What Kai said there. Yes. I am Razor of Razor Sharp Gaming 96 here on Twitch. I don't stream as much as I want to due to work schedule and stuff like that. But demisexual, bi-curious, dude, non-binary dude. No, this is really. Yes, there's so many labels for me. But just I love to have talks. I like to just play my games, just chat with whatever. I'm usually all over Twitter, just kind of talking with friends or going against racists and transphobes with as clear and calmly as I can. Which is hard, but I do it.
And Starsona.
Hi, I'm Sona, or Starsona, as everyone seems to know me as. What am I? I'm pansexual, demisexual as well, non-binary woman. I usually spend most of my time just on Twitter, following a bunch of people, looking at the discourse, not always commenting, but at least looking at what everyone's talking about. I'm in a bunch of different communities. A couple people that I know have already been on the stream today. Shout outs to Beyonce Forwards and Dizzy and Luxander. Also, hi Dizzy in chat. So yeah, that's me.
And as most people know, since you're here, I am Star Panda. I am a trans woman. I am a lesbian, demisexual, and is everyone else black on here, or are you multiple races?
I'm black.
Very much mixed.
What kind of mixed?
Just a very, very simple 50-50. Father was white, mother is black.
Okay.
Okay.
I am black, Hispanic, and Native American, so everything but white. But
I have like one of my like great grandparents was white, and another one of my great grandparents was Native American, but everybody else has been black, basically.
Mm-hmm. So I was pretty much ill prepared for what I had planned for weeks, but yeah, I want to get everybody's I guess experience being in the queer community as people of color. And I'd love to start with you, Kai, because it's a very interesting point in being asexual and in the queer community, especially being like black, you know. And
Yeah.
I just want to get to know your perspective and all that.
It's a really interesting thing because you didn't even know that, or at least I didn't know that being asexual was an option. Like you have being bi, you have being gay, you have a whole spectrum in front of you. Nobody says you don't have to choose any of this. So growing up, I'm probably the oldest person in the panel, about 40 years old. Growing up in the 90s, it was hypersexualized. The music was hypersexualized. From a young age, people were trying to do things that we honestly had no business doing. And I knew I didn't think the same way they did. So I had a friend that was maybe like 7 or 8 years old. There were two girls that lived next door. And a buddy who I just recently became friends with, he's like, man, don't you have any girls around here? I'm like, well, there's two girls that live next door. They can come hang out. And he's like, yeah, hit him up, man. We could. I'm like, dude, it's not even like that. We're just friends. We just play Nintendo. What are you talking about? And he's like, nah, man, we're gonna get something going. I'm like, no, I'm really not comfortable with this. And like, I felt extremely uncomfortable, and that was probably the first time I ever really had that experience. And it kept going on further. The older we got, the more it was, oh, let's go to the mall and pick up girls, where I'm hanging out in the video game shop, not caring about that. Let's go to this spot and pick up girl. No, like all through high school, let's go to parties and get with girls. I'm in the corner smoking, chilling, telling stories and rapping. Like my mindset's never been on the, hey, let's hook up, let's find someone of the opposite sex to work with. And I knew like maybe like I'm a late bloomer, maybe that's just what it is. And eventually I had to come to terms with, I'm just not interested. And so that's been the experience, and like being around well, being in the Black community, that's just not something that can be. And I got to a point where my friends would literally take me around to every girl, like, hey, do you want to date this guy? And I'm like, look, seriously, I'm not interested, can we just not? So when someone hooks me up with someone, I'm like the dog that caught the car. Now what do I do with the car?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting perspective, because it feels like so society as a whole has put like this I guess the stereotype of Black people being very sexual kinds of people, and if you don't fit that like to a T, then like you're a little too different for everybody else. How has that affected you?
It's been really weird. So if I would date, and this was like very rare that I would, it was more of having to keep that girl away from my friends, because it's going to become a hypersexual situation, and I'm not really of the mindset to want to deal with that. Same goes if a friend leaves me with their girlfriend, that girl is completely safe. I have no interest in her.
Mm-hmm.
And I've only had one friend that actually understood that. And so he would go out of town and be like, hey, make sure my girl's okay. Whereas other people, I'm getting accused of trying to steal their girlfriend just because I'm friends with them, or whatever the case may be. And that's been a problem in certain friendships and relationships. Whereas other people understand that about me, and they can expect that I'm not going to disrespect or try to hit on their girlfriend.
And Razor, do you have anything to? How do you feel about being Black in the queer space?
I know that for me, I was raised by my black grandmother, very Christian, very much into all this stuff. Kind of had it pounded into me, Leviticus and shit like that. So whenever so for a long time, I would always have that message kind of beating around in my head. So I never got a chance to fully explore my sexuality or anything like that. Because I was always afraid of disappointing her or getting my entire congregation mad at me. Um, and that's something that you do see a lot in like black communities or black families, especially the extremely religious ones. Um, so after I had left my faith, I was able to more look into it. And I ended up finding out that I do have a preference for females, but I do find some guys looking pretty tasty. But but it never I can never go like a full like sexually into them immediately. Like I say, you look good, but the moment your personality hits mine the wrong way, you lose all appeal to me. Which that's the demi part. I can't if I cannot get sexually aroused with you unless I'm able to hold a conversation with you. So probably a mix of sapiosexual with it too. Um, it's so being in the queer in the black community is it's strange because you would think it could be it's just very strange. I'm hard it's very hard for me to describe this because it's always running through my head.
Yeah, that's okay. Um, did you have more to add, or was that about it?
Um, No, I don't think I really add too much more than that.
Sure, yeah. And Sona, how have you felt being Black in the queer community?
It's interesting. My experience with being Black in the queer community and also queer in the Black community are
Yeah.
very. They sort of came one after the other. Obviously, I was in the Black community first. Obviously, I'm Black. I grew up in it. My family was very religious. My grandfather was a pastor and he owned a church. My dad was also extremely he was I don't know how to describe it other than famously homophobic. Like his homophobia was legendary. There were stories about his homophobic sort of escapades. So that was interesting, right? When I was younger, I couldn't even I had to have my hands and fists around my dad because having my hand out like this was gay, and he would my hand. So it was very deeply pushed into me. I didn't realize there was something happening with me until about I was 12 or 13. And I realized that I really enjoyed just gender non-conforming people in any space. I would see them occasionally in media or games or something like that, and it would sort of just stick in my head constantly, right? um I remember when I played one of the Tekken games, and there was a character named Leo who was gender non-conforming, and I was I just sort of they stuck in my head so often. And after a couple of years, I was I feel like there's more of this. I should explore more of this about myself. And when I was in high school, 15, 16, I was very depressed and having other issues. And I was you know what, screw it. All this stuff is going on. I shouldn't really be so hiding everything about myself. So I decided to sort of be extremely open about it to my friends. And my friends in the Black community were all very accepting. But when it came time to deal with my family, it became a whole different situation entirely. My family would get upset, but then they would have fake reasons as to why they were upset. So it was very much a two worlds thing where my friends sort of became my family in a weird way for a while. It didn't sort of reach a level of equilibrium until I had to put my foot down, right? Where one day I sort of just I came out and my family were all upset, and I was okay, fine, if you're upset, I'm leaving. And I left for 3 years and just barely talked to my family for a while. And then they realized it's she's putting her foot down. This is not going to change. So eventually it got to the point where things have sort of slowly gotten better with basically everyone that I knew that was Black in my community with relation to my sexuality. But being Black in the queer community was very interesting initially, because not everyone you meet in every community is going to be necessarily healthy for you. And when I initially started being around queer people, there was a weird tension there because of my race, right? I remember initially there was a lot of weird, I don't know, fetishization from other queer people. I had to deal with various levels of different sort of kinds of racism, which is why I'm not in big communities anymore like that. I'm very much this person who has small interpersonal connections with people, because that's just where it feels comfortable for me. I sort of peek my head in and out of communities, but I don't you know do big community stuff anymore because of those initial instances of weird stuff about my race when I first came out, basically.
Yeah, it seems like we have pretty, I guess, somewhat similar perspectives on being Black in the queer community and being queer in the Black community. There's always going to be that kind of ostracization in one way or another, and I kind of feel the same way. My parents basically once I didn't really have a choice of coming out. Once they found out by looking through my phone, I basically was kicked out, and I had to go find my way out in the world. And
Same.
yeah, and basically my dad was a reverend and was not for anything queer or anything. Ironically, they were uh I guess fiscally liberal, but like socially conservative, like you don't see those very often. But yeah, it was very interesting how those kinds of things can clash. My mom was Hispanic and Native American, and I have a decent like connection with her now after my dad had passed. But like over time, that was like a work in progress. Um, so basically, like uh, in from the what the in the black community I know of, it's like some kinds of issues where I have to basically find a queer black community rather than um, like sticking with all sorts of black people in like where you would find them most, like in churches and um, like I guess community places. But like I guess for in the queer community, um, it feels sort of like erasure in a way because these issues aren't talked about that much, and then the people who do talk about it are doing it in a way that isn't helpful.
Yes.
That's how it feels to me, though. Like, I guess I'll throw the question off to you guys. Like, how do you feel about how we talk about black queer issues in the queer community?
Honestly, like recently, I don't think it's been very good recently. A lot of it, I don't know. A lot of it has happened on Twitter. I think Twitter is not great for discussing a lot of issues, unfortunately.
Yeah,
But
Especially with who we have in charge of it currently.
exactly, yeah, right. But it sort of feels like there's on one side there's a level of a section of people who may just not be very aware of black issues, and another section of maybe people who feel sort of, I don't know, like manipulating sort of like black struggle and trauma and things of that nature, and it causes these levels of like clashes that happen over and over and over again. And I feel like intersectionality is in some ways getting a lot worse in recent times, because whenever I see queer black people being brought up, it's in relation to someone saying something really dumb or some kind of issue, right? This is my representation, just weird drama because someone did something dumb, essentially, is what it boils down
Yeah.
to.
Like, I usually on Twitter, I usually will on Twitter. I even have my name as it, Razor Sharp, the intersectional vanguard. Like to I like to try and be as intersectional as I possibly can. I want to have as many, uh, be it queer, straight, or anything, just together, so we can actually talk about these issues without it turning into a complete shit show. But then you have people who are very disingenuous who will come into the conversations and screw it all up. I don't, and I have no clue how to weed that out, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's really interesting to hear because like the intersectionality is definitely one of the biggest things that I could see within the black community. And I would think knowing the struggles that the black community has had throughout being in America, we would be the most understanding of queer issues, understanding that, hey, maybe you don't feel like you belong or that you're not being treated as a human being. We would be able to understand you. And so, having my experience being asexual and knowing I'm slightly different within the Black community made me more accepting of anything like that. But then, as I was hearing from everybody else's story along the way, the thing that ended up hitting home was the church. And for some reason, the church ended up creating so much more stigma. In my own family, my cousin is gay, but no one in my family knows that except for his parents definitively. And they sent him to conversion therapy because of the
Oh,
church.
Oh god.
So every time the church comes up in that, that becomes a bigger cross section of where we have to protect our own people from the misunderstandings and misgivings of our own people. And understanding that our struggles are still the same, we need to respect those struggles and help each other.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Um, it it feels like with what you said, with the church being such a big part of I guess like any black person's life, like we tend to have the church as like a um just like a part of any of our lives pretty much. Some of us don't
Yep.
stick with it, some of us do. um and I don't know how to like parse that, I guess, because like it's a big part, and there are some churches who have are queer friendly, but like the ones that I've been in, and I guess from anecdotally from what I've seen and from what I've experienced, the black churches have been pretty like uh with queer identities been pretty what am I trying to say? Socially conservative, I guess. Does that make sense? Um, would you guys agree with that?
Yes, yes, very
Yeah.
much so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I told a story about it like the other day. Um, my nephew is 10 years old, but when he was shortly after he was born, he they wanted to get him baptized. So he also has family who I think one of his grandfathers is also a pastor in the church. So we go to his grandfather's church, and I'm sitting there. It's like, okay, we gotta sit through the service first, and it's like the entire 2 hour service basically was just about homophobia, like the whole thing. Just you're going to hell, and I feel like he sort of slowly turned towards me. It was like, you, Sona, you're going to hell for like 2 hours straight.
Oh,
It was something else. I was just like, yeah, and so yeah, it definitely it feels like um a lot of people seem to have family that in the church, which I think makes the situation a little bit more awkward. Like I said, my grandfather owned a church as well, but yeah, it seems like those ideals are pushed especially hard in the church because it's also a lot of black people go all the time, like their parents force them to go. So
yep.
yeah.
This is why chosen family is the superior family.
I agree. Yeah.
So,
But
oh, go ahead.
yeah, but no, like the yeah, like we were saying, with what you had Panda and Sona said, there are definitely queer friendly churches, but I went to one for a little bit before I officially became atheist and stopped going. Where it was queer friendly, but it was that queer friendly where it's like, so long as you don't do it within our walls, we don't care. And
Oh God.
that was, yeah, one of those kind of things. So, like we had a gay pastor who I believe had a husband, but they were not allowed they did not ever stay in the same room throughout the entire
Wow.
time. Yeah, like
Wow.
whenever a service was happening, it's like one would be doing college room stuff, the other one will be doing high school room stuff. And I think there were a few lesbian staff members as well, but again, never were allowed near their partners while they were at the church.
Mm.
Like it
Wow.
was super weird. It was just it, and keep in mind that one wasn't even keep in mind with that one, it wasn't even a predominantly black church with that one. But the black church, whenever I went to a black church, it was always somehow a sermon would pop up where it was talking about Sodom and Gomorrah or just straight up homosexuals in general, and yeah, the hell thing. I always heard it, and I always felt put with it even as a kid, just like, why are they saying this? Shouldn't we love everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we touched on it a little bit earlier with Sona's response to a question. How have we been feeling about, I guess, those kinds of, I guess, the people who are trying to talk about intersectionality but who fail, basically. Like, how are we feeling about that? Like, especially on like internet spaces and being online as we are. How are we feeling?
I want to die. Um,
Yeah.
oh my
I feel
god,
that.
I will. I'm not kidding when I say this. I have while working, I'm on my because with my work it's very flexible with what I can do as long as I get my shit done. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I'll be like on my phone checking my Twitter every once in a while. I spent like close to spent my almost my entire 8 hour day constantly checking my phone, putting in a paragraph of text, just trying to quote unquote argue slash conversate with people about intersectionality and what it truly means to be a feminist, a pro-black, pro immigration, all that other stuff. Just and pro gay, pro queer, pro homosexual, like being pro everything and anti hate. And it was the most painful experience because I was speaking to people who were talking about they were allies, but they were going crazy with me saying like, hey, we should love and care for everyone and give everyone a chance and only drop them when they show that they are not able to help us, or that they're not wanting to help us. And I was being put on blast for that statement.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I can at least
Because
respect you for trying. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh, well, so many people have drawn lines in the sand, and so you have the Black community that's not so much for the LGBTQ community, and they feel that their efforts are being hijacked by that community. But then you have Black people in that community that you should be wanting to help, along with the Black people that aren't in the community. So you're already losing your intersectionality right there. So then you have people that don't want to accept trans people but are gay or bi, and they take issue with the science or whatever they don't understand in that direction. So then you have another splintering of the groups, and that creates another toxic situation. When we can just accept each other, push each other forward, and anyone that's trying to damage those things, put them under scrutiny and try to get an understanding. But that's the thing we really need to do, is come together and get an understanding.
Yeah.
I always am trying to find a baseline whenever I have these conversations online. Like I'm trying to see if like, hey, can we figure something out? Like let's pull back. It's obvious that we're in a very high advanced area right now. Let's pull back a little bit. Let's reel it in. Okay, let's say we go to this particular portion. Do we agree on this? Yes. Okay, we can go to the next step. I will do that for hours. And then once we get to a very specific part, then they disagree with me on everything that we had just talked about.
Yeah.
It annoys me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it's interesting because there are people who sort of claim to want to promote intersectionality, but they approach bringing up the topic with hostility. Like
Yeah, that's
they'll-
a major problem I've been seeing. Like, starting it out with being hostile is not how you approach intersectionality in the first place. But yeah, go ahead.
It feels so often like this is not only in queer communities, of course. This is also in just like the Black community, talking about Black issues is separate from the queer community. It often feels like there's people who are extremely loud who are starting the dialogue, trying to get people to care about one subsection of people while simultaneously attacking another one entirely. And there may be a section of people who come to try to approach this in good faith, and then there's some people who are just meet that hostility where they are, right? Just sort of clash right back with them, and that's how all these conversations seem to go so often. It just seems to just break down like that instantly, and then it becomes a sort of thing where it's just like now you have these sort of small subgroups of people, like there's like a bunch of mini echo chambers like off these conversations who just sort of hate the other group forever, right? And it's just like, well, now there's no point in even talking about it or bringing it up anymore. Now the conversation is just a sore topic, it feels like, in general.
Yeah, it feels to me like it's a lot of in grouping and like infighting about like petty shit. Like if some random streamer rubs you the wrong way, then you're gonna be the one to like tear them down. Like I don't see the purpose in that when we're all fighting for the same thing. Like um I don't know. It's annoying and aggravating, and like it doesn't help the people who are slipping through the cracks to like police everyone else on these things.
The argument I always end up getting from people for some unknown reason turns to me simply saying, why aren't we able to do this and help all these things? And I usually will get the answer, if I can remember this correctly, we have to focus on this thing first, and then maybe we can do the other thing. It'll be something along those lines, or even policing the language. It's like, no, you can't talk about that because reasons. They don't give a legitimate reason, and when they do give a reason, it's bunk because it's just a real simple like, well, then I can say it to everything. Here's a word that's synonymous to it that works just as well. What are you doing?
Yeah. I don't know how to come at this. I probably shouldn't, but
Oh no, please.
Might as well. Go on.
There are certain people out there who are talking about intersectionality, who use intersectionality as a bludgeon. And with that intersectionality, it feels like to me that what they mean by intersectionality is how they are the most intersectional, as in the most queer, the most black, and all of the above, you know? So like
I do the most for the community because I'm best at everything. You're supposed to love me. I'm intersectional because I love everyone all together. Love me and only me. That's
and
how,
you're supposed
that's how
to
I come across.
you're supposed to listen to me over everyone else, and it's infuriating because like it invalidates other people, right? Because like
Absolutely.
online I have been called basically the C word for like they would at first think that I'm white. I say I'm not white, and then they call me coon. And like,
are we the same person?
Like, it's for a simple disagreement. Like I can disagree with another black person. That's fine. Like, we don't have to resort to like infantile insults to have a conversation. But like, you know,
we're not a monolith.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
you disagree with those certain voices, then all of a sudden you are the bad person because you didn't agree with one portion of the most important person in the room's statements.
Yeah. You can't really have a dialogue if there's just like blind agreement, and like
that like
there's
7 or 8 hour day. That's what it was, being called the C word the entire day.
Yeah, like it's because I think there are sort of like, it's weird, like this happens quite a bit with black people sometimes, where they've sort of become like representative of like of just blackness in general. So being against them means you're just against the blackness and like as a whole. And this is
it ends up turning into where said popular streamers or content creators will pick a very specific black voice, and they go, guys, we should listen to black voices. Black voice says, hey, I don't really agree with that, not that one.
Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. Like, they pick and choose which black voices they want to listen to. Like, I get it if like you don't want to listen to, let's say, Candace Owens or like Justice Thomas. Like, we don't listen to those black voices because you know what they say.
Thomas Sowell.
Yeah, Thomas Sowell. That guy, oh my god. We could go on about him, but like, with all these issues that we have going on, like, we have very like we have different things to say about the same issue, and it's good to hear out what the other people in the same community are saying, because if we don't, like, if we don't vet all of these ideas, then it's never going to become like the policy that we go for. Because, like, you've already purity tested something that you don't know is going to work, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I could go on about it.
In a weird way, sometimes to me it feels like no black person has a voice, really.
Yeah.
Because
It's
it becomes like
god, it's oh my god, what was it? I'm thinking of Syndrome for the Incredibles, but instead of powers, it's voices. If everyone has a voice, no one
no one
does.
does. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's a very apt analogy, actually.
it kind of just feels like, this black person is sort of aligned with whatever other personality, and so it's not really like you're listening to this voice at all. It's just you're sort of just nodding your head with them because they're aligned with somebody else you like.
Yes, yes, Token, yes.
And
That's how it comes across.
and I don't want to make it seem like it's just sort of like, because obviously in leftist Twitter spaces there's like a very much like a this side that side. It's not really like a one. It happens to a lot of prominent black names, to be honest. Like it I feel like it to some extent it happens to all of us. I say us as if I'm prominent at all of y'all.
I only have 100 something followers on Twitch and I barely stream, so we're good.
Yeah.
Let's see. Does anyone else have like questions for the other people on the panel?
I knew I should have written stuff down. I had things, but I forgot.
Let's see. How do you feel about like representation in media for black queer people?
For representation in media for those things, I feel like it's definitely been getting a lot better. A lot of new anime that's coming out that legitimately does have people of color in it, that like either main characters or the supporting characters or just really important characters who are black, queer, definitely a mixture of those both. So I feel it's getting better. Obviously that's gonna rub a lot of morons the wrong way. So I want it to keep happening, but we're gonna have to continue to fight with our dollars, basically, just and viewing eyes in order to make sure we can keep it going.
Yeah, I think it's been pretty beautiful to see the amount of black queer, black trans people that have been been able to be highlighted and things. It's great to see these people sort of following their dreams and having it actually work out for them. But of course, the other side of this coin, obviously you mentioned being queer in the black community, and you see all these discourses in the black community about weird like conspiracy theories around these sort of innocent people who just happen to have a little bit of fame, right? Like they're trying to change our children, or there was like the Dr. Umar video talking about how, oh, this whole thing is sterilization, and this stuff is being shared by black people at a pretty consistent rate, on Twitter, right? Because of course these people who genuinely believe these things are always the loudest, and so they're always sort of spreading these messages and starting the same discourse every week, essentially.
It's really hard to get the people who actually care about the facts and do want the best best of everything. It's really hard to get them to be the loudest. I wish there was a way that we could do that, where it's like, and I get why people are kind of quiet when it comes to the truth about the truth and stuff, and actually being like good people, because if you know you're right, there's no reason to scream about it.
Yeah.
So it's very so whenever I see someone just screaming their head off about something, my reactionary thought is, you're probably lying.
Yeah.
because of how much people have been screaming nothing but lies, and I feel like we need to somehow get like we somehow need to get people to be willing to scream the truth more often, because it's getting very deafening and almost soul killing with how much things are getting just accepted because hey, they were loud, maybe they're right.
Yeah. The thing about it is that like the ramifications for these kinds of things are always going to be people who don't really have much power or voice who are within the Black community. I feel bad for not always speaking out because it sort of feels like the same. It's literally the same conversations happening every couple of days, to the point where like people who may agree with us on these kinds of things will literally just respond, y'all say the same thing every couple of days. Like that's like a common consistent thing I see all the time in response, because it's
just
true.
it's just so consistent. It's just at that point you've been grinded down to you're so dumb. Could you please stop? Like
Yeah,
you're
I'm tired.
quiet.
Yeah,
Just like, can we not, please? I just had a big day. I had a big lunch. I want to go nappy nap. Stop,
yeah.
please.
At the same time, the proliferation of these sort of negative these negative standpoints on Black people, queer Black people in the community, I do worry about them having legitimate effects if these ideas are not challenged more often, right? There are queer Black people who aren't necessarily in the same situation as us, who may be in a more oppressive environment than some of us may currently be in. So I often think about them, but when it comes to arguing with just bigots trying to get attention, it doesn't feel extremely effective. I wish there was like a better way to sort of approach these Black queer people who may feel isolated within their own community, to approach them directly, because I feel like that would be a better use of our time and just more helpful in the long run.
That's kind of the issue. We kind of need a narrative change going on in our own communities, because like most recent one I can think of was Laverne Cox being in Orange is the New Black, and I thought she was exceptional in that.
She was great.
I thought she was a great actress. She held great gravitas. There was nothing denigrating about the character. They weren't portraying something negative at any point. They cared about their family. This is a person you can actually look up to. But then people in my family are like, oh, there's one of those in that show. I can't watch that. And I can sit there and I can argue with them and explain to them what's going on. But then it's just going to come back down to the Bible, and this is what was being said for the end times, so on and so forth. So then you get online and you argue with someone about it. If you can change their mind, that's great. It doesn't go anywhere really, except that person won't be spreading the hate anymore. If you aren't able to convince them, you're reinforcing how they feel about it, and now they're going to be even louder about it. And that's not helpful either. So we just really need to get a better narrative on the reason why representation is necessary in popular media, and not just saying, oh, they're trying to shoehorn their agenda in. Because I'm tired of hearing those words. I'm like, what's the agenda? To be seen as a human fucking being?
Yeah.
Is that what
right?
Why wouldn't you want to be seen as a human being?
Yeah. Like what is the agenda at the end of the day? And it's always something like they're trying to suck your blood, or like it's like
it always goes back to the
They
Jews.
never have an answer.
Yeah.
It'll always go back to the Jews with them. I know it every time.
Yeah.
That actually reminds me. There's been kind of a surgence of, I guess, Black people who have been like starting to get a little bit Nazified. Like
rising.
What are they called? Like Hoteps or something?
Hoteps, yeah.
They've been getting more prominent. It feels like. I don't know if it's the same in like non-online spaces, but it seems like some people are starting to adopt, Black people specifically are starting to adopt these kinds of extremist types of views. I guess for example, recently, I guess it was part of the Shark 300 kind of drama, where someone called Shark out for being racist when he was pointing out that being weird about mixed relationships is probably bad. What do you guys think of all these kinds of things?
God.
I've been
This is
avoiding
where the
any.
rubber is meeting the road with Black people trying to talk about Black issues. And we have a subgroup of people within our communities that say race mixing is bad. Anything that's not pro Black is anti Black. And if you feel any other way, you are a C word. And
Yep.
that is antithetical to anything we're trying to get forward. We need solidarity as a people. We don't need to be separatist, nationalist, anything on that order. That's the dumbest thing you can do is remove yourself from the money. We need to have solidarity within our communities and actually be willing to accept each other for who we are and not think that we're inferior based on not being Black enough, not having the same ideals. This is where we keep shooting ourselves in the foot as a community.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we can be heard without excluding all the other voices.
Yeah, I think there's this sort of weird, I don't want to say it's like a concentrated effort, but sometimes I've gotten this sort of vibe where it's like if you're doing things the wrong way or if you're like a certain kind of person, it almost like disqualifies you from being Black. Like I think for a long time there was a thing where it's like if you were gay, they saw you as just like less Black. Like it was just very weird in that kind of way. And I think that sort of like that's an evolution of those kinds of ideas where it's like you have to be this specific kind of way, have these kinds of beliefs, serve this purpose, to sort of be like a Black sort of like elitism almost. It feels like in a way that like is not necessarily helpful for anybody, and there's going to be a lot of Black people who don't fall under that. What are you going to do with all those Black people, right? You can't really say Black empowerment, Black unity, Black anything if you're just going to make enemies within your own community and accuse them of being toxic to their own community that they were born in, raised in, and still continue to reside within.
Way too many times have I seen. It's way too many times for me personally. Have I had times where I'm just like, hey, can we not just randomly hate on my friends because they're white? That'd be great. Can we not do that?
Mm.
And then I get called anti-Black for saying that. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about other Black people in the queer community, and I think if they didn't go so hard on trying to act like anyone who has a critique of other Black people is racist or anti-Black or anything like that, I would like to know what are your own critiques of, let's say, the is everyone leftist here?
Yeah.
Hey.
Could you
I kind of
imagine?
just assumed
I'm
that.
just a sock then.
That's fair. Okay. So like what do we think about like how we've been handling, I guess, like from people like Vosh, Keffels and stuff like that? What do we think are some critiques we have for those kinds of streamers, the bigger streamers, who have been getting all these bad faith critiques, but like may have some issues that we have with them?
I'm gonna go with the top two there that I've watched both of for a minute now. Keffels and Vosh. With Keffels, I feel like she's starting to fix up her stuff already.
Mm-hmm.
But like make just like work on work on like the language you're using / don't try and be as edgy anymore because that will get you in even more trouble. I get it. Edgy jokes are funny. I like them. I love edgy jokes. That's why I liked them both. But obviously when they do start talking on actually big issues. It's best if they do tone that back heavily. That'll be my critique for both of them, and I've seen they've been already doing that. So technically speaking, I can say no notes. They're both great to me.
I've not watched a ton of Keffels. I've watched a little bit of Vosh. I think this is just a critique of just a lot of these sort of big creators. I think what often happens, a lot of the discussion around race issues comes in the form of like arguing with specific people, and that's sort of where a lot of these conversations begin and end. I think for me, it's almost not enough to tackle race issues through the arguments of one person. It's a lot more useful to really understand where people are coming from, like understanding their actual experiences and their actual like lived realities, as opposed to just sort of taking something they said that was sort of like off base or inaccurate or something, and just tackling that, and that being just this is the race discussion. I think it would be a lot better to really understand Black experiences a little bit more by, I don't know, not doing it in sort of an argumentative sort of battleground that is Twitter all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty new to these spaces, so I'm not really aware of a lot of things that have gone on with Vosh and Keffels or exactly what their talking points are, but they are very prominent people, and I can see why the words and the things that they do may hold weight, but bottom line, they are not the communities and they are not a monolith themselves. So there needs to be scrutiny, of course, but they can't be the last voice and the last word in the struggle that's going on. I did end up getting involved in some side struggles. Dude, Endless Cemetery, and a couple other people I ended up on a panel with, and I really wasn't in agreement with him, but that was no reason to screech at him. Same deal. I've spoken about Black separatism and nationalism, and this is all coming from those communities. And I just don't feel it's very constructive to take their word as the last word.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I kind of want to get some people's opinions on this, because I think we only heard like mostly one side of this kind of situation. So a little while back, Keffels, before she went to rehab and everything, she was getting basically inundated with hate from let's call them like puritanical types of leftists, who were like, some people call them woke scolds, some people call them what's the other word for them? Either way,
bullies.
Yeah, cry bullies, basically. So what Keffels was doing, what she said was that she was basically telling her community to go into those communities with a pig crew avatar, the more diverse, the better, and saying like, throwing out like a Black lesbian butch type of person, and making them in fight and all that, and and then one thing that they like to leave out, who complain about Keffels, is that she basically took it back because her chat was saying, no, don't do that, don't say that. And she said like, never mind, don't do that. So what do you guys think about this situation? And like people who might feel, I guess, like, first, let's say, how do you feel about the situation itself? And then how do you feel about the people who were critiquing it, either in bad faith or good faith?
So, like I said, with my little bit opening bit on that, I like edgy jokes. They're funny to me. Hell, I personally do crack racist jokes with my friends because I just find them funny because it's with friends. And so the joke, so I saw what she said as a joke, and she said she took it back. So I was like, okay, no big deal. No, okay. The people who are criticizing her for it are dumb for not realizing it was a joke that was taken back immediately, and to harp on the fact that it was a joke that she took back immediately, they just continue. I just find that the dumbest thing to do. I just find that the dumbest thing to do. It's literally along the same lines as as Nazis who were clipping Vosh's VODs to make him look like a pedo. But once you find the full context of what he said, it's obvious that he was against it entirely. It's literally that same thing.
Yeah, when I saw the clip, I was like, oh god, like, because I knew it was going to
You knew where it
cause
was going.
I knew it was going to cause some kind of shitstorm. I'm not like a big edgy jokes person. They don't really like offend me. I just don't find them funny very often.
That's fair.
But like with that, it was like I feel like that's just generally not great because of the reaction that was inevitably going to occur from this. It I don't necessarily hate Keffels or anything like that. I have no ill towards Keffels at all. But it's one of those things where it's like when you have a platform where everyone is sort of kind of wound up all the time. I think it is good to be careful with that kind of stuff because it's always gonna explode. It's always gonna turn into some kind of thing, and it's always gonna detract from any other kind of real issues that are going on because there's constantly real issues going on. So I think it's just it's just good to be aware of that kind of stuff and to be careful with that kind of stuff because it's always going to blow up every time.
Well, this is the problem with putting specific people on pedestals because at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We all have the opportunity to make a mistake, screw up, get it wrong, the whole deal. But when you're on that pedestal, now you have so much higher to fall when that situation happens. And we have to understand that these people are not perfect and we can't take everything that they do as chapter and verse. And we have to take that with nuance. So when that happens, try to guide those people back to a position where they're helpful and not harming anything that's going on and not ruining their platform because their platforms are also important. They have a lot of ears and they can help the causes that we want to help. So tearing down that platform isn't necessarily to our benefit. But at the same time, keeping that platform accountable and what's the word? Accessible would be the main thing we would want to do. So the fact that she took it down lets you know that there is some level of accountability there. She didn't want to deal with the smoke that was coming from that. And I can respect that. And we can move forward from there.
I think it's great that her chat held her accountable. I think that's it's really cool to have a community that is willing to do that with you and do that with you also in the right ways. There's a lot of talk of accountability online, and there has been for a long time. But the way people hold each other accountable, it seems to just generally be kind of unhealthy, and it only makes the situation worse. Not only for the creator in question, but just
For the
her fans.
yeah.
Her fans, her community, people who feel like they don't have a voice will have less of a voice now. So
Yeah. Go ahead.
I remember a conversation when I was on a Prime's panel with Bam, I think, where we ended up having a small conversation about the words evil and hero and calling people those things. And my overall thought on it ended up becoming you can't call I don't feel like you should call anyone a hero because then you end up deifying them in a way. And these streamers that end up getting really big with these platforms, you end up having a lot of people who will end up deifying those streamers. We need to have people stop doing that because they're still just humans. They're people like I just said, they have flaws. They're gonna screw up. They're gonna mess something. They're gonna say something wrong. And like Sona just said, it's good to have a community who's willing to check you on that. So I'm grateful for Keppel's community being able to be like that. Vosh's community is also the same. Vosh has said some pretty sus stuff that his chat has said, "Hey, dude, that's don't." And he went, "Ah, yeah, you're right. That was bad. Nah, take it back." Like he's being legit, just like that. That was that obviously a joke. Like but then everyone labels it as. But then of course everyone ends up labeling it as Schrodinger's a-hole because then they call him evil for that.
Yeah.
There was actually like a specific thing in Vosh's community a while back about differentiating the what was it, the black separatists from the black nationalists, because black nationalism is very different and is isn't it like an educational type of thing where it's like taught in colleges and stuff, whereas black separatist is like literally the equivalent of like white nationalists. And like the terminology he didn't get, but like after people in his community were saying, "Hey, you're getting this wrong," he did come out saying like, "I got this wrong," you know, and
Yeah.
saying basically like these things are different. And did he talk to someone about that? I don't remember.
Yes, there was a number of people he ended up speaking to directly after the Professor Flowers debate that he had. He spoke with a I don't know if they're prominent, but a member of the land back activists
Mm-hmm.
who who ended up giving what land back is actually supposed to mean, and then I believe the topic of separatists and nationalists did happen in that debate in that conversation as well.
Yeah.
So that was one portion I saw, but then I'm not part of his Discord yet. But he has a lot of layers to let me get into that. Uh he and but I believe a lot of his community on his website and on his channel have left comments and stuff like saying, "Hey, here's the differences." So, and I'm sure he has read them. Same with Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. There was something else I wanted to ask you guys about. I guess like what how do you feel about I guess the do, I'm having trouble with this one.
You
Take
got
your
it.
time.
How do you feel about, I guess, the topic of uh people of color in these communities? Like on the left we have a bunch of people who think they're doing right, and then like there are people who slip through the cracks. Um and I wanted to get your perspective on that. Like, do you feel like you're slipping through the cracks at all? And I guess how do you feel we could improve on preventing that from happening?
and just to clarify, when you're saying slipping through the cracks, do you mean like becoming more reactionary and right wing?
No, not necessarily. Just like not having their needs or voices heard. You know?
Oh, getting like dropped, like they end up losing a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Okay.
had that feeling constantly. I had that feeling all the time. I used to weigh in on issues like a lot more often. I am someone who is willing to disagree with anybody, but it does kind of feel like there's a point where it becomes, oh, Sona, you're actually a woke scold, or Sona, you're actually a whatever the hell, whatever the hell people are gonna call you for going against their deified creators and whatever. And it often does feel like my voice does not really matter. It doesn't really matter what voice you have. It matters what group or what tribe you belong to, and that's basically all it is. And I just don't like that. I don't like belonging to groups. I don't like doing that. I like I like being met where I am and being spoken to and having a conversation about these things. And that's just doesn't feel like that's where we are anymore. So it feels like my voice was just discarded long ago. So
And I've the way I've been able to get around that particular feeling of slipping. I luckily for the longest time was never really a quote unquote terminally online person. Whenever I end up having a very big discussion with someone online about something, the way like I do breathing techniques and everything as I'm typing, I'll put down my stuff and just go talk to my roommate or call my girlfriend, just like, and we'll end up talking out normally type of stuff. So I can't say I've really ever felt like I was slipping through the cracks, because I always had a sealant on those cracks of like I'm not gonna fall. And if I do, I know I have that safety. I currently have a safety net, and I feel like everyone needs to try and build that up before you start diving headfirst into online discourse a lot of the time. At least that's how I've done it so far.
Yeah, I speak to my partner on these things, and I have conversations with them about this kind of stuff all the time. Because it feels like that's where my voice is heard, and that's where the most constructive conversation happens a lot of the time. More, speaking to people who may have differing opinions from you, as opposed to putting it out there on Twitter for any bad faith actor to pounce on.
I'm not sure I'm entirely understanding the question based on the responses.
I guess like just the way that let's say people on either online or offline are talking about the issues that we have in general. Like, do we incorporate Black voices enough, or is there like a way we can fix that if it doesn't?
Okay, because the way I was seeing it is, uh, in the Black community, I can say specifically, there is a pull to conformity and normalcy, and anything that deviates outside of that is going to be demonized and not accepted, and we're going to shun that. And we're not going to have a good talk about that because we're too afraid of being pushed outside of those spaces to let that be known to begin with. So, like, one of the things that I could say within the Black community that really isn't addressed the way it should be is mental illness. And we're just not going to have that discussion in our family. So my sister was dyslexic. She's fine. God made her the way she's supposed to be. This is what it is. She never got that addressed. Same with my asexuality. I was never told that was an option. There's still going to be an expectation of kids, grandkids, the whole deal. I can't really have that conversation with them. I would like to, and I would like to know I'm going to be accepted in having that conversation, and there'll be some level of understanding coming forward. I just don't expect it. Now, in the online spaces, I feel I'm able to be a lot more open about those things and actually have my thoughts and ideas addressed. Not everywhere, but I'm going to say in most spaces, I get the respect of at least being heard and having a conversation.
Yeah. That,
Hmm.
so I think that is probably all we have time for today. I really appreciate you guys coming on and speaking to me. Shout out to purrnyia who brought us all together, basically. And Kai, would you like to start us off with the outros?
Well, I am Lethewaterkai. You can find me in all spaces under Lethewaterkai. It's been a great conversation. Check out my panels every Wednesday, 5:30 Pacific Standard Time, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. I like to have as diverse a panel as possible, and I tend to go with more thought-provoking rather than concrete or pop culture ideas.
Sweet. And Razor.
Yep. Yeah, I'm Razor Sharp Gaming, 96. I know that I had to have the 96, unfortunately. Someone took the other one. But I stream unoccasionally, unfortunately, due to some mental things going on with me and just general busyness of my normal work schedule. Trying to work on that, get myself doing a little bit more streaming. And content creation. I have videos that I'm working on. Gonna be a minute. But yeah, follow me here on Twitch under that tag I told you. Follow me on Twitter, Razor Sharp G96. Just to keep in touch with me if you want to just talk about something. I'm always an ear I'm always an ear for people who just want to talk. And when I'm probably done with this, I'll probably take a small intermission because I'm currently streaming myself live.
Oh wow, hi.
We'll probably
Hi,
take a.
Stu.
Hey,
It's very
everybody.
few people. It's very few people, but yeah. Probably gonna take a little intermission after this to grab a few things, and then I'm probably gonna try and play a Goose Goose Duck. So if anyone who is watching likes the idea of that, hop into my chat so you can end up seeing the code for that, and we can probably play that.
And Starsona.
Hi. Well, if you enjoyed me, I am on Twitter. My Twitter name is dumb. It is at SONONONONA. I believe that's my current Twitter name. I'll sometimes be in streams, usually Xena and Poppies or Luxander. I'm in those chat rooms. You can say to me there. You can just say hi to me anywhere. Really, I'm always open to talk. I'm very open, willing to speak with anybody. It was lovely being on here. Thank you, Star Panda. Thanks to Rainbow Passage. It was very, very nice. Happy Pride. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on. Like everybody here, like I appreciate everybody coming to talk with us and being in the chat and all that. Yeah, I'm a little tired if you can't tell. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thanks again to Purrnyia for bringing us together. And yeah, I might ask you guys again for another panel in the future if you guys are down for it.
Hit me up anytime.
I'm literally open to conversations whenever. As long as I get a heads up, I will make the time.
Always. Have a
Sweet.
great time.
Yeah. Well, you guys have a great day. I appreciate it.
You as well. It's been a blast.
Bye, everybody.
Come kill me with geese.
I don't even want to know.